From vinyl music sounds to lively verbal go-arounds,
this is Into the Runout. Hello.
Hey, we're back.
Back in the studio.
Back in the studio, back in separate places. For now, we are living separate lives.
I'm not singing. That's a duet I am not partaking in.
Right. But I tell you, for ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Into the Runout. This is our new episode. And for those of you who were fortunate enough to check in last week, you had the chance to be treated to a first in our short-lived early origins of this podcast and venture into musical territory. I had the indescribable joy and privilege and honor to travel north of here from where I live up to John's humble abode in southern Indiana, where we set up shop just a little bit to the what would that be? The left of his current spot. And we sat at his little island over there, and we did our crossover podcast with Mr. Andrew Lambert and Mind Your Business. And I'll tell you what, John, I don't know about you, but listening to that, I had as much fun listening to it, almost as much fun listening to it as I did doing it.
Yeah, I had a great time. I know everybody had a great time. I spoke with the guys afterwards on the other end of the show, and they both thoroughly enjoyed it as well. And I hope we can do it again soon. It was a nice, interesting setup to get off of the virtual screen and actually do it all in person. This is the first time, we saw each other, earlier in the year.
In June.
First time that you've been to the new place. So I'm glad you got to come and stay in the Lincoln bedroom.
Oh yeah,
for a night.
It was wonderful. The whole experience was just great, and yeah, and it was just fun to be able to just, break out of the usual and just sit where we didn't have to deal with headphones or computers or anything. And Andrew and his partner in crime, Wes took care of all the details. I thought he did an impeccable job of putting it all together.
Man, that took so much work off of my back. He ran the show, set up the cameras, edited everything.
Yep.
So I definitely appreciate Wes and his efforts, and Andrew for initiating all of this.
Yep, Wes and Andrew, big shout out to you guys. You guys are awesome.
And that, of course, is the Mind Your Business podcast. After you're done watching our show, go on and check out what they have to offer as well. But let's talk about those bagels.
Ooh, yeah.
How about that?
Man.
There's some delicious bagels that are here in town from a place called Gable's Bagels. I'll plug it. I don't care. But if you're in Bloomington, you got to stop by. There's 2 locations. Definitely stop by, and you've got everything you can possibly think of. Just pretend you're in New York and getting yourself a nice, delicious bagel, and you're in dreamland.
Oh, without a doubt. That was a killer breakfast. So
yeah,
I couldn't ask for a better meal. That was great. Man, the meal you and Terlinda provided for dinner was great. I mean, the whole stay was great. And I'll put in a shameless props to you, my friend. Having watched the edited version of our podcast last week with Wes's dynamite editing skills, I got to say, the editing job you do is quite respectable in its own right. So props to you and props to Wes for helping keep everything flowing good, making us look sharp and intelligent, and just a great experience.
Yeah, it definitely was. Hey, so what else happened while you were away last week? Anything interesting? Once you left Bloomington and headed back down to Kentucky?
No, nothing too noteworthy. Just got back into the business of life. Okay. Wearing a special Into the Runout t-shirt, which now I'm happily, gonna go out into public, displaying and telling people about what we do. And
my shirt has caught some attention on my end too. So, maybe we're gonna do some merch in the future here. Who knows?
That would be fun.
Offered up to some of our listeners and subscribers. Let us know in the comments if you want a t-shirt or anything like that. We'll consider it for sure.
Absolutely.
Nothing too interesting on my end. I don't know if you call this interesting, but I officially became a board member of our HOA here in our local community,
Whoa,
which
nice.
I never really sought that out. I wasn't like standing in line waiting to do that job, but there's been some people that have been doing it for a number of years and they wanted to take a little break, and a neighbor asked me if I was willing to join, and I said, sure, why not? Let's do it. And something new and interesting. So I'm sure I'll have some stories to tell on future episodes of the shenanigans in the HOA.
Yes. Yeah, that's a world that has a lot of strong opinions one way or the other, but great that you're venturing into that. That's awesome. Good job, my friend. Good
We'll see
job.
what happens. We'll see what happens. So today we're talking about something that definitely pertains to what we do here on the podcast. We're talking about rock and roll. And we're talking about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Cleveland rocks.
Yep, Cleveland rocks. It is a location and a place, a physical place, and also a museum that I think it's kind of funny too, because way back in the 80s when Huey Lewis and the News got done doing a show in Cleveland, and they were jamming away and they got the vibe of the room, Huey Lewis made a statement to the band that says, guys, the heart of rock and roll is in Cleveland. Ooh. And yeah, so who'd have thought? They put that in the song, and years after that song, Heart of Rock and Roll, Cleveland would become the host of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum.
Have you been?
I have not. I would love to go one day. I know in Nashville, we also have the Musicians Hall of Fame, which is inside the old Nashville Municipal Auditorium, which before the Bridgestone and the other concert venues were built, that was like the destination apart from the Ryman Auditorium where all the great artists would go. Elvis performed there. Jim Croce performed there. Anybody who was anybody in music, rock, pop, folk, they performed at the Municipal Auditorium. So the Musicians Hall of Fame is definitely a very, very popular spot. And there's a website, too, that's associated with it, which has other links to individuals who have actually done interviews with members of the Musicians Hall of Fame and, people that have made their mark. So little shameless plug if you want to get more information on more artists out there. That definitely, I just pulled up a couple interviews and watched little segments of it, thinking about Hall of Fames and everything. So yeah, very fascinating.
Yeah, the family made it out to Cleveland to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think it was last year. Had a great time. Was, as with most things, it was smaller than I expected, but they had a lot of exhibits crammed into that space.
Sure.
And it was definitely interesting and worth going. And Cleveland itself, the town, was a nice town too. We had a good time there and had some good food, good meals, and a good stay in a hotel nearby, nice walk.
Nice.
And, right on the water. So it's a nice place. You definitely have to go if you haven't been.
Yep. Lake Erie. I spent many years back in my younger days when I was lighter and more, shall we say, daring and more invincible. About hour to the west of Cleveland is a wonderful town called Sandusky, which is, of course, the home of Cedar Point, one of the best amusement parks in the country with the highest volume of roller coasters of any amusement park in the country. They always boast it as America's roller coast, and I spent a lot of years over the course of my 20s and 30s going there religiously and riding those coasters.
Are you a roller coaster guy then, I assume?
Yeah, when I was younger and lighter and a lot more invincible. I haven't been on a roller coaster in many years. I would have to venture into a weight loss program before I would feel comfortable getting in one of them cars again. But yes,
I'm not a coaster guy. I will admit on the show I am not a coaster guy, and I will say I have a strange relationship with them. It's not that I'm afraid of them, like being scared and going upside down and being thrown in the sky basically. I just don't trust the people that put them together. I hope they tighten all the screws and the bolts and the thing doesn't fall apart while I'm going up and down a hill or a curve or whatever. So
Yeah.
that's why I don't like roller coasters. I don't
No.
partake in that at all.
And that's certainly a respectable, concern. And, sadly there have been a few isolated incidences over the years where that has unfortunately taken place. But I know that, like with any, thing that we, choose to step on, albeit an airplane or whatever,
Yeah.
they definitely take great pains and to make sure that things are replaced efficiently, because you're right, lives are on the line. And, I would kind of bounce between Cedar Point and then down in Cincinnati. There's Kings Island, which is the home of the Beast, the famous wood roller coaster built way back in '79, and what a coaster it is.
What about Indiana Beach? Do they have coasters in Indiana Beach?
A few coasters in Indiana Beach. They had this old classic one back in the day that they disassembled in about 2013, 2014 called the Galaxy. That was the one where I got, kind of cut my teeth on in terms of, this is what I want to ride for a long time to come. Then they got this fun little kind of toboggan type coaster called the Tiger. They built a wooden roller coaster back in somewhere, I think, before the new millennium, called the Hoosier Hurricane, and it kind of runs parallel with the whole boardwalk. So, and it was so funny. I literally just had an Uber ride in Nashville just this past week, who grew up in Monticello, worked at the park throughout his young years, and now he actually runs the ice cream stand inside Indiana Beach, the one that I've gone to literally my whole life, and he's a musician as well. So maybe, just maybe, if I continue a correspondence with him based on the card, he may be somebody that we may want to just, get together with and maybe have a future show with, because he was a fascinating guy.
More importantly, maybe we could get some free ice cream out of him.
Woo! Well, I'll tell you.
See, I'm thinking.
I put in his ear something very important, because this coming year is the 100th anniversary of Indiana Beach. And while it has changed hands ownership a couple of times to different companies, he does have a good, tight thing with the owners. And I said it would really be wonderful that on the 100th anniversary that they, for at least even for a short window of time, would restore the old general admission option. Where basically you'd spend $5, you could cross the bridge, you could go into the park, you could do whatever you want in terms of playing the games, buying the gifts, eating the food, and if you wanted to ride a ride, you would have to buy a ticket, $5 for a ride or whatever it was, and you would show them your ticket and you would get on the ride, and if you wanted to do one, you could. But it was a great opportunity for people who were maybe older, who didn't have the freedom or the ability to get on a ride. They could still go and with their grandkids and, and walk the boardwalk, play the games, do all the things that this place, which is more of a Coney Island park, would boast. But, through change of ownership, they removed that, and they, now require you to spend $40, which... it's not worth $40,
right.
Maybe to a young whippersnapper it is, but to the people who don't want to go and spend all day long running themselves into the ground and getting beat up on a bunch of rides, that's not worth the money. And most parents would say no, but they have to say yes to be able to accompany their kids. And it's a real, I don't get the logic behind it.
It's a conundrum.
It is a conundrum, and it hasn't been addressed by any of the recent owners of Indiana Beach. So hopefully this fine gentleman can maybe put a bug in the ear, and hopefully we can have something. So
there you go.
But again, just the funny thing of people that you just meet. Like just yesterday, I'm getting White Castle for the wife and I'm inside this White Castle where I live here in northern Tennessee, and there's a gentleman in a Chicago Bears sweater. And it's like I strike up a conversation. He grew up in Blue Island. He lived previously in Bolingbrook with he and the wife. They've been down here for 5 years. It's like, there you go. It's like I'm always running into people from the Chicagoland and suburbs. Like,
small world.
It's just crazy. It's wild.
Speaking of Chicago Bears, we're recording on a Sunday today, and before I came into the studio in front of the camera here, we briefly put on the Bears game on our TV. And now, mind you, I haven't watched a football game since the Bears played the Colts in the Super Bowl.
Wow.
That's been a long time.
That's almost 20
and
years.
that was personal preference because I just don't like the rule changes every year and it's hard to follow and it makes me feel stupid watching NFL. So I just don't follow anymore on purpose just because of that alone.
Yeah.
But I just happened to put it on. And as soon as I put it on, they scored a touchdown. So I think I might be good luck to the Bears, and that's why they've been terrible lately. So I don't know if I should start watching them or at least put it on the background and not watch just to give them some good luck, but go Bears.
The Bears.
Let's move on to the business at hand, Tony.
Yes.
We're talking about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Oh, but before we do that, I'd like to thank all of our listeners and subscribers for doing what they do and cheering us on and liking our stuff and subscribing and passing the word on. So please continue to do so on YouTube, Spotify, and all the podcast platforms, Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music or /Audible, and as many as you can think of, that's where we're at. So please continue to support us, and I hope you enjoy our content, and let us know if you don't, or let us know if you have any suggestions.
Yeah. Yeah, and a greeting to our newest subscriber who was an Uber ride just the other night, who gave me the kind observation that I should do voice acting, and so I told her about our venture into podcasting and showed her our site on YouTube, and I hit the subscribe button for her. So
Wow.
So we have a new subscriber via my finger that was, she would gladly said, yeah, please subscribe me. So thank you, new subscriber. If I recall, it might be Anna. Help me. Forgive me if I got your name wrong, but I believe that was your name. And yeah, welcome to the Into the Runout family.
So she wasn't coerced. She was
No,
assisted.
she was assisted because she took the time to encourage me that I have a unique voice, which hundreds of writers have said it many a time.
You're catching the attention across the country. I can say you've caught the attention of some people here in Indiana too. But we'll talk about that later. Not today.
Gosh, I'm humbled.
But yeah, you've always had a great voice, Tony. That's why everybody.
Well, thank you.
When Tony talks, people listen.
I may not be E.F. Hutton, but here I am.
All right, so Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yes, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
So today I think we're going to talk about, and me and Tony talked about this loosely. We're going to talk about the people that are nominated this year. I believe there's 8, if my math is correct. And then we're going to talk about the people that should be in, that we think deserve a spot that aren't in. And
there are many, ladies and gentlemen, many, many, many. And we'll try to get to as many of those as we can.
We'll try. And if you agree or disagree with us, let us know for sure. Or if you have any more to add too. But let's talk about those that are making in this year, and that's going to be on the telly this coming weekend. So tune in. So the White Stripes brought rock and roll back to its raw, blues-soaked roots. No frills, just pure energy. Jack and Meg White proved that 2 people, a guitar and a drum kit, could sound bigger than an entire band. So yeah, it was basically just a 2-piece band. With their stripped-down style, they turned garage rock into a global movement. Fell in Love with a Girl is one song. Dead Leaves and the Dirty Ground, and Seven Nation Army, probably their most popular hit.
Oh, they did Seven Nation Army.
Yeah,
that's
and you know
right.
that song with the drum beat.
Okay. Oh goodness, yes.
Okay, you got a story?
Yeah. Well, having been a sports writer off and on for 30 years, there's nothing more obnoxious and annoying than watching a whole section of the gym with a bunch of kids hopping up and down going,
I remember my daughter was in the marching band at one point, and that was something they played constantly.
I was like, all right, I get it. What was funny was when the Oak Ridge Boys did a version of that song. That was really funny. They decided to just take on Seven Nation Army and give it the Oak Ridge Boys, edge, and their voices joined in with fury and force, and it was like, wow,
So it was Elvira. Is that how it went?
No, not quite, but just
I didn't go deep enough. That's what it was. Okay. All right. So Tony, I told you earlier, I got a little information for you. If you're not familiar with the White Stripes, so one half, Jack White, lead singer, and actually, Meg. At the beginning, they were believed to be brother and sister. That's how they billed themselves. But technically, they were husband and wife. But they just didn't want the hype and the drama to be tagged along with the band, so they played it off as brother and sister. They're not married anymore, but that's the role they played. But Jack was in a documentary called, and I don't know if you've seen this or heard of it, but it's called "It Might Get Loud," and it's about three guitarists that get together and they just talk about their their journeys through their careers playing guitar. Jack White was one of them. The Edge from U2.
Yes, okay.
And good old Jimmy Page.
Whoa.
So the documentary is called "It Might Get Loud," and I've seen it several times.
I have not. So yeah, I'm now going to be motivated to go search that one out because.
And warning, Tony, it might get loud too. Just like.
I have earplugs. I have earplugs to prepare myself.
And you're gonna love the intro to the documentary, and it's one of the coolest things. So Jack White. It starts off with Jack White. He's outside this old kind of farmhouse, dilapidated farmhouse, and he's on the porch, and he's got a board from the porch, like an old porch board, laying on the porch, a glass bottle, a bunch of nails, and a hammer. And a guitar string and some sort of homemade pickup and an amp. And he builds a guitar in like 3 minutes with a hammer and nails and wood and a glass bottle. And then he plays it. And then he's like, who needs to buy a guitar? And then the documentary starts. So it's a super interesting documentary. So I definitely recommend to all of those who haven't seen that to watch that. And tune into the White Stripes because it's very interesting music. Like I said, Jack with his unique guitar playing and songwriting. And Meg playing the drums, and it's just a simple drum beat. And that's basically it. It's just stripped down rock and roll.
Nice. Well, fantastic. Congratulations on the White Stripes.
All right, Soundgarden being inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. Long overdue, I think, personally. Soundgarden didn't just play loud. They reshaped what rock could sound like. With their mix of punk, metal, and experimental grit, they helped ignite Seattle's grunge explosion, paving ways for bands like Nirvana and Pearl Jam. And they literally, in my opinion, paved the way. They paved the road for grunge, and then Nirvana got in the car and drove on the road. That's basically what happened. They got pushed off to the side. They were the first of that scene to land on a major label. And albums like Bad Motorfinger and Super Unknown took them to global recognition, blending raw power with real emotion. So they had songs called Rusty Cage and Outshined, Black Hole Sun, Fell on Black Days, and they proved that heavy music could be both fierce and deeply human. Chris Cornell, lead singer, who has since passed away in 2016, also went on to play in bands Audio Slave and Temple of the Dog, if you remember, Tony, sing along with Eddie Vedder of Pearl Jam.
Oh, that's right. I do remember that. I'll always remember Black Hole Sun. It was one of those indelible songs that just, it's like the video, the song, the energy, the message, everything about that song was, for the time, very defining. And, there was something in Chris Cornell's voice where, there was a grit and a reality and a rawness and an authenticity that definitely drove that song. And of course, the sound that the band harnessed was definitely a polished, grungy, but very, very real, raw, and authentic song. And it continues to be the song that defines them and ultimately, I think, elevated them to the status that, made them the band they became. And whether they spent the rest of their career trying to chase after that, and try to replicate it, could be argued. But but definitely one of those songs that you never forget. The moment you hear it, it's like, wow, it's an indelible song and a darn good one coming from more of a sappy 60s, 70s, 80s guy. That song definitely gave my seal of approval and deep respect.
Nice. My go-to song for Soundgarden was Rusty Cage. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with that one. Listen to it if you have time after the show, but it's a very upbeat, motivating, like it's a song I put on when I wanted to drive fast. So it's got that tempo and momentum to it, and that song and "Whole Lot of Love" by Led Zeppelin was another song that I used to put on to drive fast, which I don't recommend driving fast to anybody out there. And I will, a side note, I've gotten pulled over twice by police for speeding, and I didn't get a ticket though, but I was playing Led Zeppelin both times, so now I don't play Led Zeppelin in the car anymore because it just gets me into trouble.
Yeah, my go-to is unashamedly Highway Star by Deep Purple.
That's a good one.
That thing revs up, and you want to make sure you're on the expressway going at least 70 miles an hour, because the lyric and the beat and the sound and that whole wow.
I'm writing down a note to do a podcast about driving songs because that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Also, another song recently is, and we talked about this when you were at the house, Polk Salad Annie.
Yes.
That's in the movie Ford versus Ferrari.
Okay.
Kind of like a remix thing. And that's me and my daughter's favorite song to put on. We used to put it on when she was running a little bit late for school. So we enjoyed listening to that tune too. So that's a nice motivating driving song too.
It is, and when I purchased Elvis Presley's Live from Madison Square Garden concert in 1972, he played Polk Salad Annie in the shows that he played at the Garden, and he and the band revved it up, and Elvis gave it a treatment that gave the song a whole nother audience, because the song had already gained, of course, recognition based on the original, but Elvis kind of gave it that revved up.
Yeah.
Energy to it. And it was like, once that song got going, between Proud Mary and Polk Salad Annie, both those songs, you knew you were off and running at an Elvis concert, because those two songs were positively just, yeah. But yeah, great song. And if we ever do a song, we've talked about maybe doing a song with foods in the title, we'll definitely explore that one.
Well, you're giving spoilers away, Tony.
Hey,
I was going to bring that up too.
Were you?
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it now, since you brought it up. We're going to do a future episode here. Actually, the one following this one, so stay tuned. It's going to be a episode about food songs.
Food songs.
With the Thanksgiving season coming along, that's apropos, I think.
I always make my wife laugh when I do my turkey impression.
That's the first time I've heard it. That was a good one.
Well, thank you.
That's pretty good. If anybody has any suggestions about driving songs, though, put them in the comments in this video, and we'll consider them for that episode when we get to that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I certainly have my list.
So we're moving on to our next inductee to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the band and the group called Outkast, but I am. Tony, how about you?
I am. You can't help but know Outkast, just knowing the one song to kind of define them, and of course that's Hey Ya, and that song took on a different, whole nother kind of expression in pop culture. About 20 some years ago, some witty, creative, intuitive person said, "Why don't we take that song and dub it to the segment of A Charlie Brown Christmas where they're playing all the instruments on the stage and sync the songs to them as they're going along." And and it's like what I watched it, and it was like pure genius. So it was like Outkast kind of went to another level with whoever chose to do that little sync. But yeah, definitely a memorable sight to see. Now, something that I could not unsee, and not for a bad reason, because it was very witty. Very witty.
We'll post a link to that in this video so everyone can look at that if they haven't seen it.
Right.
So when Outkast brought their vision of the dirty South to hip-hop, they didn't just make hits. They changed the sound of the genre. Andre 3000 and Big Boy fused funk, soul, rock, and Afrofuturism into something completely new, putting Atlanta on the map in the process. From Southern playlistic Cadillac music to Styconia and Speakerbox, The Love Below, those were their albums that they released. They gave us timeless tracks like Miss Jackson, B.O.B., So Fresh and So Clean, Clean, The Way You Move, and of course, Hey Ya. They're one of the few hip-hop acts to ever win the Grammy for Album of the Year, and now they're Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
Hey, The Way You Move, I don't know if you're familiar with that song. It's kind of got a little Latin beat, Latin horns in it.
I might have heard it somewhere in passing, just didn't associate the title with the song or the artist
played
with the
at
song.
Yeah, it's kind of played at, it's sort of a dancing song, so it's played at like wedding receptions and 4th of July parties and things like that. So years past, I think it was at a maybe a bar or something. So there was I think there was a band playing, and it was in between the band's break. They played that song, and I was out with my wife and her sister was dancing to that song. And I think that's kind of the first time I remember hearing Outkast, and it was a fun night. It was a good, interesting song. Interesting to mix, hip hop and their take and with a little Latin flair to it.
Yeah. And you definitely can give artists credit and props when they get a little inventive and they decide to, experiment by infusing different musical styles and creating something. And I mean, that's what we want in music. We want something that's where you're exploring, but you're not just ripping off something, Because I mean, there are individuals who have released songs in which they literally just sample something out of a hit song and then make their own song out of it. And those particular kind of songs just drive me straight up the wall. Because it's like, come on, think of something, be a little bit more inventive and creative with your art, or it's not art at all. But when you take a band that can incorporate something into a style that they're already going forth, I got no beef with that.
So now we're going to move on to our next Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees. A group of ladies that I actually loved listening to when they were current. I'm not sure if you were a big fan, Tony, but that's I'm talking about Salt-N-Pepa.
I remember them. I remember the iconic song.
What song is that?
Push It.
That video was on all the time on rotation for sure.
Yep. Oh yeah, the song, the video, it was a constant on the radio, and yeah, the riff, the sound, yeah, it's forever ingrained in everybody's mind. I don't think you could be a person in the world and not know, at least if you didn't know the song per se, that intro. It's one of the more iconic intros that that's out there.
Okay, so Salt-N-Pepa didn't just break into hip-hop, they kicked the door down. As the first major all-female rap group to go gold, then platinum, and the first to win a Grammy, they proved women could run the rap game on their own. Cheryl Salt James and Sandra Peppa Denton and DJ Spinderella brought a fearless feminine energy to hip-hop. Mixing confidence, humor, and honesty. They spoke openly about relationships, safe sex, at the time when no one else was doing it. We froze.
There you go. Oh.
We froze. I don't know what happened.
We froze.
Are we still recording? Okay. When no one else was doing it. With hits like Push It, Shoop, and What a Man, they ruled the radio, the clubs, and MTV, blending hip-hop attitude with pop hooks and pure fun. Now, as Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees, Salt-N-Pepa are celebrated as true trailblazers, the women who turned empowerment into a movement and made sure the world was listening. I think they first met each other, I think they were in nursing school, as I recall. back in the day. And then they first started talking about getting into rap and music in some discussions in the, they used to work at a Sears, and they talked about it in the cafeteria, I think, when they were on breaks.
Wow.
So yeah, definitely humble beginnings at the
Hey,
Sears.
we love that. We love humble beginnings.
Oh yeah. Got to start somewhere, right?
Oh, somewhere over. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you got to love it. And when you said "What a Man," it's like, oh, I know that song too. I remember that song.
Yeah,
Great,
it's one of my
great
wife's
song. Great
one
song.
of my wife's favorite songs. She tells me every time we hear that song, she tells me stories about that song. So,
Ah, I love it. Well,
all
you
right.
are a
So
mighty
now,
good man, John.
okay. So next up is Miss Cyndi Lauper, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee. She burst onto the scene in the early 80s with a voice, a look, and an attitude the world had never seen before. Her debut album, She's So Unusual, which she was, I guess I could say, delivered hit after hit with Girls Just Want to Have Fun, Time After Time, She Bop, and True Colors. With her bold style, colorful videos, and fearless individuality, Cyndi became a pop rock icon, breaking barriers for women in music and championing self-expression and equality. What's your favorite Cyndi Lauper song, Tony?
Well, I mean, Girls Want to Have Fun, of course. I mean, who doesn't like that song? I mean, she did it with all the energy and all the gusto that you would want, a girl to sing about their own. And I mean, I think it's certainly a message that, anybody, any girl could get behind. And, the guys certainly would agree. Girls do want to have fun. And she just hit she really hit she struck a nerve. She hit a chord. She really happened upon something that really just people in general could identify with. And she did it with a style and a flair and an energy and a sound that was infectious. And because she was so unique in the way she adorned herself in terms of her hair, her outfit, her style, and of course, Cyndi, in some ways, her expressive nature became so infectious that she even, wound up gaining the attention of a whole different genre of the public. And, with the insertion of the late crazy over the top wrestling manager, performer, personality Lou Albano, who appeared in her video,
The Captain.
Captain Louis Albano, Cyndi would be thrust into the spotlight of the World Wrestling Federation and Vince McMahon, and being a part of that whole rock and wrestling connection, which included Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper and Mr. T and Madison Square Garden and all of what became the first WrestleMania, and the young Fabulous Moolah protege, Wendy Richter, wrestling the Fabulous Moolah, Lottie Kai, the whole WrestleMania thing. Cyndi was right swept up in the middle of all that, and it gave her an exposure, and Vincent his brand an exposure, and Hulk Hogan an exposure. I mean, it was just one of those just reciprocal, intrinsic kind of things where plop, it went in there and just,
Yeah.
like a boulder in the water. Boom, just not just a pebble, but a boulder. And the reverberations just kept going and going and going. And it definitely gave Cyndi and everybody that was associated with her definitely some incredible, momentum and exposure. No question about it.
It took her from being a music icon definitely to just a pop icon in general.
Yes.
With teaming up with the WWF at the time and MTV. She was a figurehead for MTV.
Oh,
She
God,
was
yeah.
always, every time you heard that phrase, "I want my MTV," she was one of the first ones during that commercial break that you saw pop up on the screen. I want my MTV.
Exactly.
With that
Exactly.
New York voice.
With that New York voice. Oh, absolutely. And of course, Time After Time, another song that remains, one of those iconic, songs. It's transcended the decade that it was written in. It's one of those songs that will remain, a significant song in any decade of music going forward.
I'm kind of a sucker for her ballads, actually. Time After Time is
Yeah.
either my first or second favorite song, and then All Through the Night is my first or second
Oh
favorite song.
God, yeah, that
I
one
just like her slower
continues.
songs. Yeah.
Yeah, All Through the Night. I mean, that one, amongst all of Cyndi Lauper songs, that one continues to be the one that you hear on the mix stations, on the stations that are blending decades
Yeah.
together. That one gets a constant exposure. I'm glad you mentioned that one, because I knew there was
Yeah.
one in my brain that I was forgetting. So yeah, that one too,
And
no doubt.
I mean, I am a huge fan of Girls Just Want to Have Fun, but who isn't? So I kind
Yeah,
of put that one off on its own shelf, and you don't really talk about it. You just know it's there.
it's there.
It's just on that Mount Rushmore of great songs.
Oh, without a
But
doubt.
I think, having said that, I think my third favorite song is from the Goonies soundtrack. Did
Yeah.
you ever see the Goonies movie, or were
You know,
you fans of the
that
Goonies?
is one of the 80s movies that I have not seen. So you'll have to tell me. Tell me your
That's a song called Change of Heart. It's just got an interesting
uh-huh.
80s beat to it, but it's in the actual movie, embedded in the soundtrack of the movie. So
Okay.
it's just kind of goes with that pop culture movement that the Goonies had and still has. It's
Nice.
associated with that also. And we do have to talk about another pop culture movement. We Are the World.
Yep, I was going to say that. I'm glad you said it. So
Yeah.
lead us in, John.
Well, she, as you know, she did partake in that great song, "We Are the World," to
Yes.
piggyback on top of the Live Aid movement. So,
Yeah.
um, go ahead.
And I think too, because she was like right there, second to the last vocal that leads into the big chorus. And of course, like true to form, Cyndi, threw her own unique kind of vocal contribution to the one line that she was, assigned to sing.
Starts off with that well.
Yeah, and her unique enunciation of change. It almost sounds like change, but in that New Yorker kind of change. But
Yeah.
that's always stuck in my brain. That it's like, is it change or is it change? But it was the way she said it that made you think, what did she say? Oh, change.
If you ever watched, and I'm sure you have seen the making of that
Yes.
whole production, there's a lot of egos in that room. A lot of people with big heads, and a lot of people think they're the best people in that room.
Yes.
And I think there were some eyes rolled when she did her part. But I think looking back on it, I mean, she's an important part of that song.
No doubt about it.
She's the voice of the 80s.
Yeah. But yet that was what made that, just as a side note, that's what made We Are the World such a success, because every one of those people that contributed, they more or less signed a unwritten, agreement that they would leave their ego at the door. And they would come in and put aside their own agenda for the bigger picture. And yeah,
right.
No question, you could argue that, maybe, Cyndi put a little bit more oomph into hers than maybe everybody else, but still, I think it was still a good, it was good, because especially when she had the yeah to lead right in, it was like you needed that moment of energetic, effervescent, kind of improvise bit of gusto that leads you into the chorus of singing We Are the World. Because, I mean, in the end, We Are the World is made up of a world of different people, a world of different expressions. And there's no question Cyndi left her indelible, imprint on that song and that moment in time. And here we are now, still 40 years later talking about it. And, I'd like to think that at that night too, maybe she also made the connection with Billy Joel, because they were both a part of We Are the World, because the following year, Billy invited her to sing a duet on his bridge album called Cone of Silence. Actually, I'm sorry, make that Code of Silence.
What'd you say? Cone of Silence?
I think I might have said Cone of Silence.
You've been watching too much Get Smart again, Tony.
And really, and it's funny. My twisted mind is thinking that would have been the perfect song. Just looking at Agent 86 and the Chief constantly being trapped in the Cone of Silence with that song playing underneath when you're living in a cone of silence.
Tony, you're gonna need an intervention.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. Yes. It's like I am the Nutty Professor.
Let's roll on with the comedy.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our next nominee, who eventually will lead into a little bit of comedy, Mr. Chubby Checker.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone's familiar with the twist, and everyone's twisted their hips in the wrong direction at some point. But Chubby Checker didn't just have a hit song. He started a dance revolution, as you know. With the twist in 1960, he got the whole world moving, from teenagers all the way to grandparents, and changed pop culture forever. His given name was actually Ernest Evans. I don't know if you're familiar with that. But I like Chubby Checker better, personally. Interesting. Ernest Evans, E.E., Chubby Checker, C.C. I wonder if that was a thought-out name change. He's from South Carolina, or was from South Carolina, but then he was raised in Philadelphia. And Chubby brought energy, charisma, and joy to the stage, turning simple dance moves into a global craze. He followed up with some other hits like Let's Twist Again, the sequel to The Twist, and Pony Time. Keeping that spirit alive decades later, his music found new life through hip-hop's golden age in 1988. He collaborated with the three larger-than-life MCs from Brooklyn, the Fat Boys.
Yep.
Took that same energy and flipped it. Prince, Marky D, Cool Rock Ski, and Buff Love, otherwise known as the Human Beatbox. I'm not going to do it. Made rap fun. Oh, man.
And we were right in the midst of that. I mean, in the 80s, when we were in high school, John, I mean, we had people that used to do that without they could just do it. I mean,
we know some good.
The beatbox was definitely in when we were in high school. I mean, it was the thing.
We were in the thick of it, and we were surrounded by some talented people in high school that could do that. And
were we, man?
Drop some beats and bust some rhymes and all that good stuff.
Absolutely. But yeah,
I'd love to have them on the show at some point in the future too.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. But yeah, I remember being in high school and just gravitating to that song when Chubby got together with the Fat Boys and did that song, and they did the accompanying video, and it told the story. And Chubby was right in there, just throwing all of his creative, expressive way. You would have never thought he was somebody that, that was back in the 60s as some old relic. No, this was a guy who was demonstrating that the twist is youthful. The twist is timeless. The twist is relevant. The twist has, a kind of expressive, dynamic, mending kind of agent to it that, you think you got yourself a DJ or a rapper over there and he ain't cutting it. Well, I got something that will cut it. And we're going to get Chubby in here to show you how it's done. And I love how the Fat Boys were able to incorporate some of their hip hop beatbox style within that song. And Chubby's right there going away, just cut loose with them. And yeah, I mean, and Chubby showed that he was still as hip as he was in the late 80s as he was in the early 60s. He was transcending generations and time and was bringing a whole new youthful vibrancy with an older song, making it as hip and relevant in the decade that he re-recorded it. And yeah, absolutely just one of those defining moments that I enjoyed listening to that many times. And occasionally when I'm in the mood, I'll throw that one on because it's a lot of fun.
Well, let's get the Fat Boys in the Hall of Fame soon too, huh? How about that? Have you
Well, I mean,
seen?
they're putting everybody else in the Hall of Fame, so why not? But I do think there are about 100 people ahead of the Fat Boys, which we'll try to talk a little bit about once we get through the current inductees.
Looking back on it, I can't say that I was able to put two and two together and knew that this song and the old guy in the music video was Chubby Checker, who originally sang the song. I'm not going to admit that because that's not true. Looking back on it, now I know all that information, but I was more interested in the rap version. I liked the beat. I liked the video. It was funny. And then it led me to go on and watch their Disorderlies movie, which is hilarious. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
No.
They're basically, it's basically the three of them and they're orderlies they're caretakers for an older rich guy. And
oh dear.
As I like to say, trouble ensues. But it's hilarious.
Yeah, shenanigans are declared.
Yeah. Haven't seen that one in a while.
That's gotta be something. Oh my goodness.
That's hilarious. It's kind of like the Three Stooges. It's got a Three Stooges feel to it.
Ah, well,
I'm sure they were big fans because you can kind of tell.
Well, and you said they're from Brooklyn, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, the big cities especially, you can't help but be inspired because in the era that they grew up in and we grew up in, syndicated television introduced us to the Three Stooges. So I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if there was a little, Howard humor infused into their comedic
Dr. Fine,
shenanigans.
Dr. Howard.
Call it Dr. Howard, Dr. Fine, Dr. Howard. Absolutely. Pure genius. And of course, you can talk about the Marx Brothers. You can talk about Laurel and Hardy. I mean, there's so many of that. We were so fortunate. I mean, young people today, I really hope they still know that there is that kind of incredible, creative, just genius comedy out there. And that it continues to live on because we were so blessed.
So let's move on to the unique voice of Mr. Joe Cocker, another inductee to the 2025 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He's a British singer known for his intensely soulful voice and masterful reinterpretations of songs by other writers, notably some of which are With a Little Help from My Friends. That's probably his most popular one. His performance at Woodstock and decade-long career made him a rock and roll icon. He did pass away in 2014, but his legacy lives on, and there are so many songs that he did cover. And, I don't think anybody in the history of music could make a cover feel more like an original than Joe Cocker could.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, whether you're talking about the studio or especially the live version of the letter, I mean, our parents certainly loved the original by the Box Tops. It was an iconic, wonderful song, and the way they recorded it, the way it sounded, the sound of the jet flying and, the whimsical, hopeful, vibe that it leaves. But boy, in the hands of the great Joe Cocker, oh my goodness. Wowzers.
And then you have other songs such as Feeling All Right, Delta Lady. You could move on a little bit in time and then you go to You Are So Beautiful.
Oh, yes.
Unchain My Heart.
Mm-hmm. Up Where We Belong, the iconic duet from Officer and a Gentleman with the great Jennifer Warnes. Interestingly, they originally a gospel song, which they kind of rewrote to kind of fit the theme and the vibe of the movie, but still treated with great respect. And I mean, when I think of a great song, I mean, years ago when I listened to Delta Lady for the first time, I was blown away because you've just got, and what I love about Joe is he understood the importance of good background singers, and he assembled a great collection of female background singers that were able to, support and enhance the vocal performance. And you can definitely hear it in Delta Lady. As he's singing it, those voices are just carrying him along through the song. And it is just positively a smashing song.
And later on in his career with Unchain My Heart.
Yes.
Background singers also were great in that song as well.
Absolutely.
My two standout moments for Joe Cocker would be, number one, I think his SNL duet, I guess you could call it, with
which we just talked about last week in our episode with Andrew. It came up where we were talking about John Belushi, and that came up in discussion. Yes.
Yeah, great moment, and iconic moment for SNL history for sure.
Oh, without a doubt.
Always talked about.
Oh,
another one is his appearance and his performance in a movie, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, Tony. I don't know if I've ever brought it up to you before. There's a movie called Across the Universe.
I have the movie, but I haven't watched it.
Okay, we did talk about that.
Yeah, we did talk about it. Yeah.
Well, I won't spoil it too much, but he does have a spot in that movie and a performance. Nice. So I'll let you watch it. And for those who haven't seen it, definitely check that movie out because it's a great cameo, I guess you could call it, in that movie.
Fabulous.
Having covered other Beatles songs, he's covering another one.
And of course, one can, of course, when you talk about the Beatle covers, you mentioned it a moment ago. Little Help from My Friends, of course, is probably the song that would be the most iconic of all of Joe's songs. And even again, with the use of the female vocals, singing with him, helping him take what was a very good Beatles song. And some could argue, his treatment of it, so unique, so iconic. And of course, getting a little help from Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin fame on the guitar riff. Once again, in the age where Jimmy was doing a lot of session work, we talked about how he played on several of the instrumental tracks on the Beatles' Hard Day's Night. He was out there, as a session worker, and he happened to find his way onto Joe Cocker's performance. And an iconic song. And of course,
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I'll let you finish. But as a huge Beatles fan, I'd like his version better as a standalone song, but the Beatles version as the whole montage together is, it's the bomb.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, you can't separate Sgt. Pepper's intro with Little Help from My Friends. They're it's a marriage that you can't separate the two from. And it was so iconic because it goes from the intro to introducing Billy Shears to going right into Ringo singing Little Help from My Friends. Yeah, iconic beginning to Sgt. Pepper. And will always be associated, with Ringo's contribution to the band. But definitely Joe Cocker and his treatment, unique in itself and iconic in itself. Just incredible.
Yes.
And of course, toward the end of Joe's career, he did a wonderful little song called When the Night Comes, which was another one of those incredible songs that, it was Joe at an older age, but he was still proving that he could still sing, he could still belt out a song. And, a man who definitely earned his keep. And, I'll just add one last little bit of commentary. Shame on you, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, for letting that man die and not induct him while he was still alive.
I do have to say, and I wanted to bring this up at some point in the show, and I'm glad you did, that, and after we move on to our last inductee, we're going to talk about who should be in the Hall of Fame. But I think besides all our grievances and, our own personal preferences of who should and who shouldn't be in, that's something that first and foremost, the Hall of Fame should work on, is getting people in while they're still with us. Now, I know that's hard to do sometimes with music because of circumstances and, things happen in life and sometimes people don't stick around as long as you would think they would. But the same thing happens in Hollywood too. And people get their stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame every other week, deservingly or not, doesn't matter. So I think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame really needs to work on getting people in while they're still here, while they can enjoy it, while they can see other artists perform their songs on stage and commemorate them.
Yes.
It's only right. And this is for Joe Cocker, this is way overdue.
Way overdue. I mean, what's different about Joe Cocker in 2025 that wasn't in 2010. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Nothing has changed with Joe Cocker in 15 years. He's still the same iconic, memorable, rock and roller that he was 15 years ago. And yeah, he could have had his day, could have received his flowers when he was alive, but now, his family has to be there to, accept it on his behalf because he's not there. And that's a crime. And we've seen it unfortunately happen numerous times. And, we as music fans, because I mean, if you're going to put artists in that aren't even in the rock and roll genre and give them their props for 2 or 3 hits, you're talking about a guy who had more than a half dozen and put out concert albums and toured and performed and left us with iconic moments, transcended that into the 80s and the pop realm and continued to remain relevant. So come on. Yeah. Come on. Yeah. There's Joe Cocker is a prime example of where the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame got this one wrong big time. And bring somebody on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame committee to talk to me, and I'll tell them that to their face.
Watch out.
Yeah, watch out.
Tony's on the loose. All right, our last inductee into the 2025 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, one of our favorite groups and supergroup, Bad Company.
Yep.
They're a British hard rock supergroup formed in 1973, if my research is correct, featuring members of Paul Rodgers and Simon Kirke from other groups, Free, famous for their hit All Right Now. Mick Ralphs was from Mott the Hoople.
All the young dudes. All the young dudes carry the news.
Yeah, David Bowie fame. And then Boz Burrell was in King Crimson, who also actually should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They delivered FM radio classics such as Bad Company, Can't Get Enough, Ready for Love, Feel Like Making Love, and Shooting Star. Their stripped-down rock sound commercial success helped define the 1970s arena rock. Their debut album, Bad Company, self-titled, went straight to number 1, and it was released actually in 1974 on Led Zeppelin's Swan Song Records record label. And then, as you know, later on, as time went on, Paul Rodgers was asked to be a member of Queen for a short stint, and he had first turned it down, but then later on decided, yeah, let's do this. And he did that for a few years before Adam Lambert took over.
Yep, not Andrew, but Adam.
Not Andrew. And I'm not going to get into that because that caused a little trouble in the studio last week.
Absolutely.
But what was I going to say? Oh, Paul Rodgers. Paul Rodgers, known as one of the voices of voices in the history of rock and roll music.
Yeah, I mean, I could try, but I won't give it the proper, justice. Company always on the run. Whoa, I mean, come on. I mean, just the way he sang it, the way he phrased it, the way he just, and of course, somewhere on SiriusXM satellite, they gave him a program in which he explored some of his favorite soul songs, which I didn't get the opportunity to hear that particular program, but you can see that this is a man who was deeply impacted by the soul songs of the 1960s. You can hear it in his voice. There's a gritty, soulful, just tight kind of, vocal performance in everything that he did with Bad Company. And, and even the songs in which were much more high energy and high intensity, there's still that soulful edge and element to his vocal, chops that just, you're captured by it. You could tell pretty much. Well, you could tell the moment Paul Rodgers' voice came in, you knew you were listening to a Bad Company song. And if it was on the radio, you knew it was going to be good because Paul Rodgers wasn't going to give you a disappointing vocal performance. And throughout the whole time with Bad Company, in the first, in the first era of Bad Company, there's no question that he had that going for him and the band. And even as Paul, transitioned out for a time and formed another supergroup, The Firm, with Jimmy Page, in which, you had songs like Radioactive and songs of that nature, Paul was still, performing music which kind of, brought forth again that bluesy, soulful kind of, just style that was Paul Rodgers all the way.
Well, I'm looking forward to watching. I don't know if you watch, but I'm looking forward to watching the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame coming up this weekend. I think it's on Disney Plus. My daughter and I love to watch this every year, and my wife also watches with us. She just loves the performances. So I don't know if you're going to tune in, Tony, but it will be on Disney Plus, and I look forward to seeing some other artists perform all these great songs.
All right. Well, we were endeavoring to continue this discussion, and we actually did, about talking about artists that we felt were snubbed from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that deserved their day. And upon looking at the content of what we did in the first episode, we determined that it is humanly impossible to give you a podcast which will command your attention for the time that it will take to put it all together. So,
yeah, we have a lot to say, and and we know you have busy lives and you want to get on with those lives. So thanks for listening to what we just had to say about the nominees and or the inductees, I should say. And now we're going to talk about in the next episode, if you're so inclined to listen, about how we feel about who hasn't been inducted yet.
Yes. But yeah, it's a good way to put an end to this show because John really, really rocked it out with some master preparation. So I will give him the honor to walk us out of this great episode. And when we get back together, we will talk more about our opinions about who we believe should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And we're at Into the Runout, where the music fades
and the conversation begins.
Yeah, we're going to have some conversation next time, folks. Be sure to tune on in.
We'll see you on side 2.
See you on 2.